I can tell you I'm pretty nervous actually.
Oh, you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Well,
Anyway.
I've been a long-time fan of your playing, and I collect your records and your leader records and the ones as a sideman. And I've been heavily influenced by your playing. And I think everybody who is serious about harmony and our music should listening to you and will listen to you at some point, and will come out of it as a changed man or woman. And at least that's what happened to me, you know.
Thank you. Now I'm really nervous about it.
So, Bill, I'm really interested in your concept of handling harmony in either your own tunes, in your free improvisations, but also in standards.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what happens in your mind, or what happened in your mind when you first discovered it. I'm sure it's very internal for you, but how you go about when you see a harmony that's supposed to be there at some point, but
Right.
your mind or your inspiration or your whatever, your inner child goes like, no, I'm going to do this now. You know, I'm
Yeah, it's
wondering
actually just
what's.
rebellion. It's simple childlike rebellion. Well, I think I can remember the kind of one of the things that really opened my ears up to guys was Charles Ives, which I discovered in college. The year I went to college, I went to North Texas State for a year, and there's a lot of record collections and whatnot, and people records. Remember those? Those silly old things. Most of the people I know that I teach at college, they don't even have a CD player.
Yeah.
There isn't even a place to in a laptop to even put it in.
Yeah.
It's crazy. They have
Dave
no.
Liebman said to me, they've locked us out.
That's right. That's what it is. He's like, I have no reference points anymore. Anyway,
Yeah.
But I digress. When I was like 17 or 18, I first heard a French guy named Henri Dutilleux.
Oh yeah.
And and I'm a big fan. And I was listening to the cello concerto that was given to me by a drummer in Minneapolis, Mark Bryn, and he said, "Here, you should check this out," you know. And okay, and I took it home. It also was an LP. It had the Ludoslavsky on it, and which I like, but not as much. The Dutilleux was the one I really glommed onto immediately. The Ludoslavsky is a little more abstract, but you know, Dutilleux is so, you know, the harmony is so modern and subtly modern, and yet he's so melodic. You know, there's never a interruption of the flow. You know, which is a big thing for me. I don't like it when you can hear the math.
Right.
You know, anytime you can, you know, there is math. There's always tons of math with music, but the key is to hide it. You don't want to see the mechanisms. You know, a Ferrari has a million little mathematical parts moving, but all you see is this beautiful car that goes 140 miles an hour. You know, that's what you want, to have it hidden in that beauty, you know. And Dutilleux is really particularly great at that, I think. And so I listened to that, and I remember I was actually in Europe for the first time with my folks. I think I was 18 or 19, and I was listening to this thing, and I had it on a Walkman, and I would play a couple of sections, and I just played them over and over and over. And I remember that was like a portal into like, okay, what if you could do that kind of thing with jazz? Because I mean, not many guys were doing that. I mean, it's jazz can be very like any other music. It can be very
elitist.
Yes, I suppose, but I was thinking more like subject to all the same groupthink that anything else is that can be. I remember years ago playing a recording session, and I started just warming up. I'd sit down at the piano, and we were at the big studio in the old Columbia Studios in New York, and I started playing some Bach, and one of the guys on the session actually turned to me in total seriousness, was like, "Hey man, we don't play classical music on it. You don't, like he didn't like that. He didn't like that. That was, the kind of, and I was like,
weird.
okay, so that's what that is. That's that thing. Is that, so I thought, what if you could do that? What if somehow you could, take, like, okay, I can show you actually, and you're not going to be able to see me here over the piano, but it doesn't matter. Like the standard, like this kind of a thing, that kind of a sound.
Yeah.
When you come to, like, I don't know, like, that kind of stuff is just stuff that came from a little section of Dittu, that chord. I mean, for me, that was a totally new thing, that B over C. And then, of course, I got the score to it, when I got back a little later, I got the score to it, and I started looking at it, because some of that stuff is kind of impenetrable to me. I can't hear all of the layers going on there. I mean, I can hear kind of what they're doing, I understand, but to get the flavors just right, there's a big difference. The way how you voice something is to whether it rings or not. It's kind of, the piano has its own logic. Kind of the way, I don't understand it, but I kind of know how to do it, but I don't know why it does it. Like the mathematics of like tuning and fifths and the overtones and all that. But there are certain ways you can make it ring that ring better than other ways of voicing it. And It's just for me, it was just a process of experimentation, just kind of like cataloging sound. Just that sound, and it works that way. It doesn't work that way. It works better this way. If you get the sixths and the tenths, and there's ways to voice it that make it better. I mean, all this, so I'm not preaching to the choir, but you can do that and make it sound, kind of bring that 20th century sound, classical sound, to the jazz. And I know there's still a lot of people who consider that kind of sacrilege, I guess, but I don't know. It's just what I liked. I liked the sound of that. I've always liked those kind of sounds, and so I just was, at one level anyway, it's pretty simple, just effort to play what you love, just play sounds that you love, and fit them into the music. And then you asked about like how to move them around, like where to put them and how to move them. It's just, what I've tried to do is make every chord sound inevitable, and that's from Bach. That's all, that attitude, that way. Bach is so elegant. Everything that Bach did is just, he'll take you down the primrose path and drop you off in a totally different spot, but yet it still sounds like one. Yeah, it's very strange, his ability to do that, and you don't realize that he's taking you around the block, to some other place, but it feels so natural. He's so elegant at it. I've been listening to Gesualdo, and that, now he's not that out, but in Gesualdo's time, I mean, he did these abrupt shifts. He was the opposite of Bach. Well, 100 years earlier, I believe. Yeah, 100 years. I think. He would just like stab you harmonically and tell you, here, it's there, whereas Bach is like, no, come around this way and whatever, and
he wouldn't only stab harmonically, Well,
I guess Gesualdo had a little thing for that, didn't he? Yeah, that's another story. Yeah, I forgot about that. So I think there's a way to do that, and make it elegant, so that even though it sounds out, that's one of the things I don't like when I hear even some people's writing, where it sounds like there are all these cool chords, but there's no line in them, so there's no, you want to make everything sound inevitable, like, oh yeah, and that leads to that, and of course it's like chess, it's kind of like a chess, and that goes to there, and then you slowly surround the king and you get to this place, and harmony can do that. And I think, when you had just a bunch of cool chords, like I like this chord and I like this chord, and I like this chord, but they don't reference one to another, it's like station to station baseball. It's just, you just go from this base to this base. There's no interaction and no master plan to
homogenic. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of what been trying to do, is still trying to do, is like just glue it together in a way that makes it sound inevitable in a way. So it's like, okay, that goes to there and that goes to there.
Right. With some players, it sounds like they have like 3 chords that are more out than the other ones, and they use them from time to time. But then you always like are thrown off, because you're like, whoa, where does that come from, and why now?
Exactly. It's random. It's almost like they just couldn't think of anything else to put there, and so they put like one of their outest things, that they could, I mean, I don't want to sound, like an ass, but it just it sounds immediately obvious. It's like, no, that, like say there isn't a line. You got to have the line, the melodic line, the harmonic line, or the rhythmic line. It's important that those things all glue together, to me anyways, in a smooth and elegant way. Otherwise, it's even playing free. You mentioned earlier about playing free, and it's the same thing. That's the kind of free music that I don't get with either. Just like the wild, just anything goes. I mean, free music has hundreds of rules. None of them are written down, but there's lots of them, And I think one of them is like being brief and be gone. Like the more dense you can make free improvisation, it has to have some I mean, you're doing it on the fly, hopefully 3 or 4 guys doing it together, but or it can be solo, I guess, but to make them dense and concise, like a short story,
Yeah.
where there's a storyline to it, and it starts somewhere and it goes somewhere, is really important in the music. And I think when that's lost, it's like, as a listener, especially if you're not a jazz musician, I think it's important too, to play for, like you're playing for your mom, like for people who may not know, they just want to come and be moved by something, or to be involved in something, and they don't know all this stuff, and I think if you start from a place of, well, you need to know all this stuff to get me, or to get what's going on, it's like, what's the point?
Yeah, but I guess also like for free music, you have to have knowledge about form and about rhythm. You want to hear good form, and you want to hear good rhythm, and good, in a way, also good harmony and melody. It can be abstract, but it's not like that. All of that goes out of the window once you're playing free. Like the greatest free players, they knew about form, and they will let you know about form when they play. And clarity, and great intent, and motif,
and working one idea.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of like, oh, I got 20 ideas. Here's all me. Just like kind of like, bleh,
Yeah.
No. It's, like, that's one of the things I love about Hank Jones. I mean, he didn't do it, I don't think, anyways, that I've heard a lot of free playing, but he was such a master at, like, every time I hear Hank Jones play, it was always like just a guy just sitting telling stories. There was no hurried nature to it. There was no agenda. There was no, he didn't care if the story actually even was finished at some point, but there was always just simple storytelling. It's such a, I don't know, in my opinion, some ways a lost art. And I think in the jazz world, the further they get away from that, the more it becomes the cutting, bleeding edges, the more it becomes something that my mom, for instance, can't relate to. It's like, what is this? You got to have that line. You got to have the story. You got to have something emotional that, like Johnny Hodges, man. When you hear Johnny Hodges play Blood Count, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a thing. It's a pure melody and emotion, and I don't know.
It's true.
That's a little bit being lost in the music, as far, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
It's all become about, every recording is like a doctoral thesis now. It is like, here's all the shit that I learned the last 3 years, and here it is. Here it all is, and laid out with my bibliography, and everything is perfect. Everything is perfect. And yet, when's the last time, like, how often do you hear a recording where it's like Miles 60s recordings? It's just, they're just flying by the seat of their pants, and it's beautiful, and there's mistakes, and there's dead ends, and Tony speeds up some of the time, and it's, it's not perfect. And yet it's totally perfect, because it's coming from this place of storytelling, and exactly.
Yeah. What was the last thing, of newer releases that you heard that touched you like that, or similar to that, in that direction?
I'll tell you what, I really loved Glow. I'm not kidding. That's a beautiful recording.
Wow.
I would say, let me see, I saw a live concert of Muhal Richard Abrams with the trombone player. I'm terrible with names. But anyways, it was Roscoe Mitchell, that group. And I saw him at Middleheim. We actually played before them. And I was just completely blown away. I mean, I'm a cynical old fucker, so sorry. So I'm not, very often just completely, like, kind of speechless after a concert. And I was pretty speechless. I came up to him. I was like,
Wow.
Amazing. It was amazing. It was completely free. And they built these shapes, and they did it together. And it was just like they were building a freaking pyramid. It was incredible. It was amazing. It was one of the more amazing concerts I've ever seen live.
Now I want to hear this.
Yeah, I don't. It was Middleheim about 4 years ago. I don't know if it was recorded or anything else. It's almost one of those concerts. It's so beautifully in my brain that I don't kind of want to hear it again. You know what I mean? Is that weird? Or
No. I like, totally get that. Yeah.
It's like it will never give me, I don't think, that same feeling.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's a beautiful thing, right?
Yeah, just standing on the side, you could feel the whole place just lifted about 3 inches off the ground. It was amazing. Yeah, it was pretty great. I hadn't felt like that about a group live in a while. I was really stunned.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Wow, and Muhal, his whole thing is I kind of don't have as many reference points for that. It's not something I don't go that way well or that often. That what he does, and I'm not that very good at it. And to watch that happen, he just does it so effortlessly. I was like, oh my goodness,
Mm.
a very prodigious technique in a kind of a sneaky and shocking way. I don't know. It was something. I can feel exactly the way it was, the way I felt then. I can one of those imprints on your
Yeah.
soul or something that.
Can you tell me about other concert memories that touch you like that really stay with you and keep on feeding you?
Yeah, I remember having as far as like more of a sentimental, attraction that I've always had to the music. Just I love the gooey old, the old Johnny Hodges, Paul Gonsalves, Zoot Sims, that whole line of saxophone players, and just the heart on your sleeve kind of. I can never get enough of that. I just love that. Like I said before, it's something that you don't hear that much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the guys that play now are so insanely better. I mean, technically, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, they do things that the guy who invented the saxophone couldn't possibly have imagined. Seriously.
Yeah.
And yet, to listen again, like to Johnny Hodges play Blood Count, or to hear those old where they go boo doo boo boo boo.
Yeah.
With the,
Yeah.
all the area, and they're so unabashed about it. There's no self-conscious thing about it. It's what they did, Well, anyways, in that line, when I was about 17 or 18, I saw Miles Davis play at where was that? It was in Minneapolis. I think it was at the Orpheum Theater, and he had his new, it was an electronic thing. It was around, I guess, Tutu, or it was around that time. Okay. And so they're doing the music from that, and he's kind of pacing the stage, and kind of doing his kind of very minimalist thing that he was doing, and it was great. I mean, I love Tutu. I think that's a really fun recording. I mean, it's maybe not. I mean, it's not my favorite Miles for sure, but it's interesting. It's cool to me. There's some nice harmonic things going on, and there is a point to it. It's not just let's just synthesizer out and see what happens. It's nice. It's got a thing to it. Anyway, so he's doing all this music, and I'm sitting there, and of course it's Miles Davis, and I'm, a complete, almost like, a Bobby Sox, or one of the, like a fan of the Beatles, one of those young schoolgirls, just practically screaming. I just was such a fan, is what I'm trying to say. And all of a sudden, in the middle of this, there's like a little space, and he starts playing boo 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 doo doo, boo doo doo doo.
No.
Boo doo 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 doo. I started crying. I was like, it was a thing I will never forget. He played about boo doo boo doo boo doo doo boo doo doo, and then he went boo doo doo doo, and then like it went away and it was gone.
Oh.
I was like, oh my god.
Wow.
I seriously, I it was the thing. It was like a ghost floating in the room and like floating around the stage. I can't even describe how I felt.
Amazing.
I can't. Oh, that concert stuck with me. That, what was it? Less than 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, the rest of the concert, I couldn't recite any chapter and verse of any of the rest of the concert, but that moment I will remember for the rest of my life.
Did he play that over Jean-Pierre?
See, I don't even remember what the tune was playing. I just remember like all of a sudden, it's like this bird flew in the room, like this big, gorgeous, just the plumage, and it just flew around and was like, check this out, and then left, just gone. As quick as it came, it went, and that was it.
Wow.
And I realized at the heart of a lot of Miles' stuff, when you listen to the ballads especially, there's so much, not cheap sentimentality, but very sentimental. This was a guy who was very, because there's no way to play those ballads.
Yeah, and nobody can be that hard, full, 100%. It's usually also a protection, right?
Of course, yeah.
I'm sure he had some vulnerability inside of him, and you can hear. I totally agree. You can hear that, especially in his ballad playing. Yeah.
Yeah, the ballad playing. And I read one somewhere, and I don't remember who said it or what. It was like in a downbeat somewhere. They're interviewing some old dude, I don't remember who it was. But he mentioned something about Miles telling him that he, that he got most of his phrasing, everything, which is not a new idea actually, from
Sinatra.
singers. It was, well, Sinatra, yeah, but and singers in general, just, I
Yeah.
mean, most of what a horn player tries to do, the piano's too precise. It's unfortunate that, I've always loved. I wish you could have a piano that was like a clavichord, where you could push the note and you can bend stuff and get a little bit of a bend.
Yeah.
You'll even see Jarrett. You'll see his fingers sometimes. You can see him pushing into it, and he wants to.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it really affects anything in the end. It's in his mind, but it's important. Important little thing in his mind, I think, to feel like he can do that. He can't, but he'd like to.
Well, in a way, it transcends into the music. Although it's not possible physically, we hear something that there's something up with that particular note. Something's up, It's hard to.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. That's almost like just a fragrance,
I think Daniel Barenboim also talked about having a crescendo between one note and the others, having a crescendo like going up, although you can also only push that button and then push that button, but
right.
If you have it in your mind, you can somehow, in a way, magically squeeze it out there if you maybe Daniel Barenboim.
Right. Well, that's the thing too. You talk about that squeezing buttons like that, and it is true. I mean, the piano is a mechanical object, and in fact has a very kind of obtuse, way of hitting the. I mean, when you do this to the hammer going like this, there's a whole lot of interlocking, mechanisms that are making this happen, and they all have to be perfectly balanced. I mean, even to the point where, as a tuner, when you spin the hammer, on a pin, it has to, when you go like this a certain way, it's supposed to turn a certain amount of times, and if it's not enough, it's too tight, and if it's too many, it's very picky stuff here.
Yeah.
The whole piano down like that, and then you think of it being so mechanical like that, and and yet if you had 10 piano players sit at the same piano, 10 piano players who, kind of have their own thing, you would hear 10 totally different sounds. How is that possible?
It's amazing, yeah.
It is. I mean, it's amazing that the piano can transmit that. So I think you're exactly right. The idea of it, having that nuance, something that maybe you can't even, you can't obviously tell it. You can't say, no, it's that. But you can you feel it, the sum total of someone's soul being poured into the instrument somehow is translated through the wood and metal and a bunch of hammers that if you flick this and it goes 6 times, it's not right. And if you do this 5 times, it is right. You know what I mean? It's just out to me. I've never been able to get my head around that. How about that, what's the guy who puts all the treatments in the piano? He's so great. Benoit Delbecq?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
Amazing guy, yeah.
Love that. Yeah, I heard a couple of his recordings. Like, oh man, this guy is killing.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Still a lot to be found in there.
Lots to be found. I agree.
When we talk about the mechanics of the piano, the actual touch, how do you get your sound out of the piano? What is it a conscious thing that you spend a lot of time on trying to get that beautiful sound that you have?
Thank you. To me, it's like massaging skin. That's what I tell my students too. It's like, for me, it helps if I keep my fingers on the keys as much as possible. It's difficult for me when I take my hands off the piano a lot.
You lose the connection.
I see. To me, I do, I've heard some amazing classical players and stuff, and they lift up. I mean, it used to be I thought that any of the dudes that kind of did all the flourishing stuff was not, didn't really work. But now I've kind of seen some exceptions to that. People who, and of course Gould had a whole thing of his own to it. There, but he kept his hands on the keyboard a lot. To get, I don't know. I mean, to me, it's like massaging skin. So it's more like a lot of finger strength and not much arm strength. I don't rely on. I know there's a whole Russian thing where you drop your hands and there's a whole flow from your shoulders and everything. I've tried to do that one time. Tried to think about it like, how does that work? But to me, it's just, it's most of what I feel like. Maybe it's not true, but what I perceive, anyways, is most of the sound that I get from the piano is from the wrist down.
Oh, okay.
It's just a lot. It's a lot of just. My arms aren't that strong and everything, but my hands are really like, I know Mark Copeland, when he had hand troubles, he squeezed a tennis ball a lot. It's a way to alleviate carpal tunnel and some of the repetitive thing is that you can sit and squeeze tennis balls and stuff like that. I think
old tennis balls, right? Because the new ones, they're pretty hard to squeeze.
Well, yeah, that's true. You play tennis?
I played tennis, yeah, when I was a
me
kid.
too. I used to.
Until it got more serious with the piano, I somehow stopped then. Yeah.
Yeah. You can only give yourself up to so much stuff if you want to get serious about it.
I think Jared did this, right? To squeeze his hand because he had tiny hands. He said he did this to when he was in school under the table to somehow
like throw his fingers out.
Throw his fingers out to bend them a little bit more and to reach further into the piano.
Huh.
Somehow, and his fingers look weird on the piano, I think,
Well, yeah, they look very super tight and very, he's like this, very, bent and his fingers curled way over. It wouldn't be the way you'd want to teach it, I think, entirely. He's kind of like Ty Cobb's batting stance, it works for Ty Cobb and that's about it, but yeah, it's strange. I've watched his fingers a lot and tried to figure that out, but it looks real tense to me, but it totally works. He's got a gorgeous sound. So
yeah.
How do you do it? I mean, you get a beautiful sound. How do you do it?
Well, thank you. What you said about I do it actually from the shoulder on, using the whole weight of my arm, and but also I really connect with you and staying with the keys all the time. I'm not trying to lift up my fingers in any way. I don't think at all about my fingers. I think more about the notes that I want to play. And then I just try to connect that with as much key contact as possible. And then also releasing my tensions, being relaxed, and then using the whole weight of my arm to translate that in a way. So I guess it's different approaches, but it's so cool because in a way, after a while, how you approach it, there's so many ways to get there.
Get there. And there's also so many different sounds. I mean, listen to Keith Jarrett's sound, which is a beautiful sound, and like you say, the tightness and all that, what he does, to get that sound. And then there's Monk. Yeah. Who's got the better sound?
Yeah.
I love Monk's sound. Yeah. Such a great sound. It's so different than Jarrett's, but and then he's got the real flat hands. I don't know how he plays like this. I mean, I couldn't play for 5 minutes like that. I don't know how you can make that.
Me neither.
But it works for him. So
yeah.
What are you gonna do? The other thing is keeping your hands super close to the actual keys. But then I aim for a spot about an inch below the key. It's kind of like I was really into boxing at one time, and when you punch, you aim your target. You aim for a spot about 4 inches behind it.
Right.
And it helps to emphasize follow through and just you're really and it's the same thing with this where you kind of aim for a spot and then by using your just pushing down on your finger you can and then it also allows you so many levels in between try to.
It's true, yeah. I also try to play through the piano in a way, like through the keys, and the keys make me in a way stop at a certain moment, but I reach below that in a way. That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice, and it also allows you, like I say, to get all these kind of levels of it where, which is hard to do. I mean, the hardest thing in piano to do is to play fast and quiet, There's some spots in some of the Prokofiev piano concertos where, I don't know, I have a great recording of Richter playing 5, and there's these cascading lines, and they're super hard, first of all. I'm a terrible reader and I'm not a great classical player, but I'm a great lover of that stuff. And he'll play these descending things in these patterns, and he does it so quietly.
Yeah,
it's like little shards of glass, just like being sprinkled on the ground. It's so great. There's a couple spots in the slow movement of 5 I'm thinking of, and then also 3. I have Gary Graffman playing really great. You know that recording, Gary Graffman playing?
No, I don't know it.
He plays 1 and 3. Yeah, it's with the Cleveland Orchestra and George Zell, I think it is.
I'll get it.
And Gary Graffman, it's pretty great. It's one of those budget Columbia ones or Sony ones, and it's a pretty great recording.
Can you tell me the name again? Gary
Graffman, yeah, Graffman, Gary Graffman. He was kind of the, I don't know, great American hope of classical piano at that time in the 60s. He came up and was just huge, and he was an insanely great classical player, just amazing. And then he got some terrible problem with his hand, his right hand, and he couldn't play at all. He had to.
Oh, no.
He started playing works for the left hand, and he started playing, the Ravel,
Sure.
and the Britten, and some of the stuff that
I guess that's
they wrote for Paul Wittgenstein.
What everybody would, do. We can be thankful that there are so many great works for the left hand, for one hand,
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an amazing story about he was Austrian, wasn't he? The pianist. Those were written for.
That guy who went into the war.
Paul Wittgenstein. Wittgenstein, the Austrian guy, and he lost his right arm in the war.
Yeah.
And he went around. He was rich. His brother was the philosopher.
Oh, okay. Didn't know that.
The other Wittgenstein.
Mm-hmm.
The other dude. Anyway, the Prokofiev one, he couldn't stand. In fact, he wrote Prokofiev, I think, and said, I've received your concerto, and I don't understand a single note of it, and I won't ever play it. Something like that. Well, at least he was honest about it. He's like, I don't understand a single note of it. It's like, well, okay. But the Ravel one is, it's hard to, that one is so great.
Yeah. And it sounds like it's two hands. Usually, these works sound like I couldn't possibly play that with two hands.
Yeah, no, I would be lost if I even attempted it. I can play that little opening, and that's about it.
Yeah.
I'm done after that. Yeah.
Yeah. How would it look if you would play on a blank thing? How would it look with your hands? What would your fingers do?
I don't know. Let me see.
But just a tiny movement. Yeah.
Yeah, I try not to go too much. It's all like you get the strength from pushing down. I mean, you can't feel, but
Yeah.
You can squeeze pretty hard. And get pushed down pretty hard, and that's where you get that. And then just barely touch it. And of course, it also depends on you got to have a piano that's capable of doing it. And that that's a weird thing too. I suppose we could talk about that a little bit as a fellow working pianist. Like the pianos you encounter on the road. Like. What does that do to your playing?
The thing is, if I give in to self-doubt, and also if I give in to negativity taking over, like this piano won't suffice at all, for my abilities.
Right.
Then I'm not, then I have to remind myself to be like inspired by each instrument on its own. Like I can't play the same. And I shouldn't play the same on each piano.
Exactly. Like you wouldn't talk the same to different people.
Right,
different people are different. Some people you can be more jovial with. Some people are pretty serious. Some people are kind of goofy. Some people are really warm, and you feel immediately kind of drawn to them that way. And other people are more distant.
True.
Yeah, and pianos are the same way. Yeah, I used to be a little more 20, 25 years ago, a little tiny bit more diva-ish about pianos. Frustrated when, because, and then I got to a place where I realized, well, first of all, that the diva thing is kind of a drag to be around.
Yeah.
That sucks. And then, and also, I realized that there's a great opportunity, actually. When they're out of tune, that still pisses me off.
Okay.
I mean, come on, you fly halfway around the world. I mean, it's a lot of screwing around to, they need to be in tune.
Yeah.
But as far as like action and like the tone it produces and the I've realized there's a huge opportunity to it makes you play different. And like there's a piano in Brussels at a place called the Archduke. You ever played there?
Trey told me about
Great
that place.
Yeah, super fun place to play. It's just people pack in there, and it's little, and the piano sits in the middle of the room, and you set the drums, and people just sit all around the musicians really close. It's like one of those old, what you imagine the old loft sessions were like or something. Everybody's just kind of around and drinking and having fun, and it's not super quiet. It's not a heavy duty listening room where everyone has to bow to the ghosts of the gods of the legends of the that kind of bullshit. It's just a fun juke joint, where people go play. And the piano there is an August Forster, and I used to own one, a Forster years ago. And you ever played one of those, a Forster, August Forster? They're made in Lobau.
I'm not sure. I don't
East
think
Germany.
So. No.
Anyways, this piano is, God, lack of a better word, slutty. It's just it's just the piano you just tell lies to all night,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people would really not like this piano. It's funky, but it's always in tune. That's cool. They tune it, they keep it well tuned, they do what they can with it. and it makes me play totally different. I mean, it's
Yeah.
you can't sit in any one spot, and I don't get to have all those nice, warm ballad moments where it's all just, where you play less and less until you're hardly playing at all, that kind of thing. It doesn't do it. It's just you can't do that. You know what I'm talking about? But this piano, you just can rip into it and just go crazy with it, and it's really fun to play. And it makes me always, when I play there, I play differently than I do anywhere else, and I really love that about it. And once I started to kind of feel that way about it, then I stopped being so uptight about the pianos being funky actions and even key tops missing, stuff like that. I mean, whatever.
Yeah, it's an opportunity and a challenge at the same time. I always love that when I see a great piano player on a bad piano, or I hear a great piano player on a recording, like you hear Bill Evans or McCoy sometimes play on
Herbie Hancock.
Herbie,
they're not even in tune.
No, and you don't care. You don't care because you see what they can do with it, and that's
right.
That's a lesson. That's a lesson.
Right. Although as a listener, you do kind of go, wow. They could have tuned the damn thing at least before a recording session.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. What did it cost in 1965 to tune a piano?
$5.
$10? Come on. You're going to pay Herbie 10 times that amount to come and play. You might as well. That's like buying a beautiful Porsche and then like quibbling over the $20 it costs to put oil in the motor. It's you got to have oil in the car.
Yeah.
It's
true.
It's crazy, but yeah, I agree. It's just an opportunity to play a different role. That's nice. I think it's fun.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about your relationship with Bill Stewart?
Yeah, I mean, Bill and I have been playing a long time together. I remember we had a session at my house, and I remember it actually didn't go that well the very first time we played together. And I think it's just because he was just so far beyond, I just had never really played with somebody who did that, that way. I mean, he's extremely advanced, just the sonically and the way his ideas are organized, it's his thing, and it's really great. And so I remember coming away from the session, and I thought, God, I suck. He was a guy that when we played the first session, I was like, okay, this is all going to happen on a different level. And you need to figure out what that level is and get there. And then about a year went by, and we had another session, and it went much better. I practiced. I felt better about it, and I think it worked better. And then the whole thing with the bassless thing was, I think we had a session, and the bass player didn't show up.
Yeah.
So we started playing. I was like, wow, this works really nice. It's just harmonically, you can move around. Once I got used to kind of covering that territory, because I never really played B3 organ or did. I never spent a lot of time with the Dave McKenna kind of doing all the walking bass, which is great, and I love that. You checked out much Dave McKenna?
Not much, but I saw a bunch of his stuff and listened to a couple of his records. He
swings
an amazing
his ass
guy.
off.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
And also I think I read this interview with Oscar Peterson where he was asked like, who's the next guy, and he said like Dave McKenna is the next guy.
He's pretty happening.
That's when I checked him out.
Yeah, he's got that big, beautiful swing feel, and he just he flows really nicely. He's a huge guy. For some reason, before I ever saw him on a video, I thought, for some reason, I just thought he was, I guess you figure he's a normal guy, he's whatever height. This guy's big.
Yeah. Okay.
He's like 6'5", 6. He's big, really big dude. I mean, you could see when he sits under the piano, his knees come right up to the. It's like.
But Dave McKenna has a big sound, right? He has a huge sound.
Yeah, he's big. He's a roly-poly player, just real big and robust. He doesn't overpower the piano, but he's very firm with the piano and very, it's great, very authoritative. I really love his playing. He's got a great thing. But anyway, so just that harmonic freedom, being able to move around like that is a huge advantage. I mean, it was really the first time I was able to really start to take some of that classical stuff out for a spin. Because then you can take a standard, a bass player would just never be able to, it's no comment on the bass, but it's just a fact of that relationship. You can never make it that tight without writing something down.
Yeah.
It would just never be able to be that tight. And so to be able to just move it around on my own was really a eye opener for me. And we had a lot of fun playing in that group. And some of the touring and stuff we did with the bassless, Abandon All Hope was the name of the group. And it was really fun. I really learned a lot of stuff. And Bill is just, to me, he's kind of like if I was going to have somebody teach, and I tell my students this, if you want to learn, drums, I tell the drumming students I have and stuff, I don't just teach piano players. They come into my room and we just play and we talk about music, and, they can be any instrument. So it's not just pianists. And some of the drummers, like, Bill's got like the perfect swing to me. I mean, like the way you'd want to teach it.
Yeah.
Just the way he touches the instrument, the way, he works at his swing feel. He has this amazing ability to know exactly where to be. Like in basketball, they call it court sense. His ability to know exactly where to be on the court at any given time. He's amazing in ability to be in the right place at the right time and say the right thing. It's why he works so much and why everyone loves him. Yeah. I think as much as any other reason is because he has this wonderful ability to just makes everybody sound better. And I think the way that he does that is by he's just consistently in the right place at the right time, at the right moment. He has the right thing to say at the right time. It's amazing. I mean, I would kill to have 10% of that ability. I just, I'm more insistent. I mean, the piano's dictatorial anyways. The piano's like the last pure dictatorship left on earth. It is. It's like when you put your hands down on a chord, that's it. I mean, you can argue with it all you want, but that is what it is, whether it's right or wrong or stupid or perfect or whatever. It's, so that's why the pianist, I can see why a lot of horn players get away from the piano. It's like, they'd rather just not have it because it can be very limiting. I mean, even I think with some really great players who know how to do that, it's just when you put your hands down, that's what it is. There's not much wiggle room. Yeah, so Bill has that great ability to do that, and just his feel is so great. And he's also such a great ballad player.
Oh yeah.
Like the sounds he gets. And we did that recording, Ghost Ships.
Oh
It's one of the.
You play Water Babies.
That we did.
You play Water Babies. I love how you play that song.
I love that tune. I've always loved that one. I've been playing that one for years. It's such a great tune. It's like a little. I love those tunes that are like like small and just compact and like that. I'm thinking of Gary Peacock's tune "Vignette" is another one like that. Just one of those tunes that's just perfectly. It's like here. This is perfect. Just play that. I mean, seriously, you can play anything over it. Everything just sounds good. It's so malleable, and yet it's got such a great point to it. It's just. How about
More that Gary Peacock,
boom. Yeah.
That's it. That's the tune, and it's perfect.
It's 4 bars.
You don't need anything more.
I think that's the shortest tune ever written. Doesn't that have a distinction? It's like the Gettysburg Address of tunes. It's like 190 words or whatever. It's like there it is, nice and short and perfect.
I think Carla Bley is also in that realm of being able to say something in 3 bars or 4 bars and just kill with it, and you don't need anything else. How can you write so little, but then you get the urge to play like so much after that?
Right. Well, Monk too. I mean, Monk's tunes are all just little epistles of perfection. They're just all encapsulated. I mean, his stuff is so perfect to me that it's hard to imagine that there was a time when they didn't exist. It's like they were always floating out there, and he went that one and that one and there's that one, but he didn't. He actually sat down and wrote, figured that out. I mean, I mean, so perfect. These tunes are so great. There was a time when they didn't exist, and it's hard to believe.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, that simplicity is so great. And mining one idea, that if I could write one thing as cool as I would die a happy man.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, that is great. Or
I was thinking of that one,
right?
Yeah.
It's so simple, and he just does it over and over and over.
But 1 second, Bill. Can you play that again, more slowly? I want to hear these chords again. Yeah.
That's the sound right there. You gotta get that crunch in there. If you do it the other way, that's too pretty. It's got more to it.
Yeah.
It's a nice tune too, because it doesn't kind of matter what tempo you play in. In fact, the more you lay back on it, you know. The more fun it is to play.
Beautiful.
Also, another sure sign of great tunes is that when you can play them like, you know, a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
And, you know, it kind of works in a lot of different ways, you know. That's a mark of, you know. I remember playing Donna Lee for years.
I wanted to say that you do that with a couple of tunes, you know. Also that ballad version of, what's it called? That famous Clifford Brown tune that you played.
Oh, Joy Spring.
Joy Spring.
I've been doing it a little bit with this one. You know. But just
beautiful.
these cool tunes where, you know, I mean, they usually swing that one, you know.
Sure.
But, you know, it can also be done that way, and it works too. And
I think that's usually the case when we learn a tune, or when we try to figure out a tune or something new for a tune. We usually play it very slow so we can hear the next thing that we might do, right?
Right.
And that way we kind of dig how that sounds, and then go like, maybe we'll try it as a ballad. I had a conversation yesterday with Peter Erskine.
Oh wow!
Talking about, I wanted to ask him, you know, did you learn the tunes for Weather Report with Zawinul and Wayne? How did you learn new material? And he was like, he was talking about how Zawinul did it, and Jaco having very specific ideas about each, you know, parameter of the music. But with Wayne's stuff, there was so much written that every one of those songs started out as a ballad. You know, they played it as a ballad, each one of those. Also, like, I don't know if you know Sightseeing, that tune.
Yeah. That one. Yeah.
They played it as a ballad first, you know. They wanted to get the shit straight, you know, and wanted to get it right first. But that sparked my imagination, you know, hearing all these, you know, elegant people as a ballad. How would that sound? You know, all these Wayne tunes.
Right.
It's a cool thought.
Well, I know that Bill told me years ago, Bill Stewart, that you know, he does a lot of his. I don't know if he talked about this in his interview. I didn't have a chance to watch it yet. I want to, but is that he practices everything really slow, very deliberate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like some of the figures when he wants to, you know, like a certain shape, and he'll work it really slowly. You know, and I took away from that too. You know, after when he said that, I was like, yeah, and just practicing stuff really slowly. You know, I've been. It makes stuff really real for you. You know, you can really peer into into every nook and cranny of a particular thing. Like with Joy Springer, like I've been learning the beginning of the French Suite, the one in B minor. Mm-hmm. You know, and but just to play it super slow, you know, it's really hard.
Yeah, I do the same thing with classical pieces when I try to learn them, like playing them as slow as possible, because that's the only way I'll be able to read them. You know, but also I want to be able to hear every note before I play it. When I play these kind of tunes, you know, that's what helps me improve my sight reading, like being able to sing each note before I'm playing it. So that way I have to reduce the speed, you know, big time.
Right. Well, and it keeps you from stopping, you know, because that's the thing with sight reading. It keeps you from stopping in the middle, you know, especially as a improvising musician, you know, like you keep stopping, and then because it's not what wasn't right. I have a huge block with reading it all. I'm shocked that you say you're not a good reader, because I don't know. I just guess I don't know what I assumed. I guess is part of your European training that you know that you received a firm training in sight reading,
Yeah.
but no.
Well, it got better over the years, but I wouldn't say that I'm a great reader. First, it's different when you put a lead sheet with melody and a chord in front of me, but
Yeah,
very
I can do that okay too.
yeah,
Mostly, yeah.
because that's
Unless
what
it's a
we did for the most time, I think. But
sure. You get good at what you practice.
yeah, well, yeah, that's true.
That's,
But a classical piece, I really like listening to classical music and reading the score while listening to it. To see how somebody interprets it, and also just being able to see how a rhythm sounds like.
sure, sure. Right,
That
right.
really
Now,
helps
you
me.
talking about piano, or are you talking about orchestra too? Do you read like orchestra scores and try to see into those too?
Not as much, but more tunes that I'd like to play. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I find it really hard to read orchestra scores with all the different
The
ways
clefs
to
are really tough.
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
really.
I mean, I can't read the normal clef, so give me a cello clef, and now you might as well be talking Mandarin Chinese to me. And I had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I did take some of my. I mean, I've studied a lot of scores, but I have to take them and I have to figure it all. I have to sit and figure it out because I can't just. A lot of conductors, of course, the great conductors can just look at a score and they can hear it.
Yeah.
I would go along and just listen to something and then circle certain sections that I liked. Like in Ives Washington's birthday or something, I would circle a section of that and then go figure out what's he doing. Why is that so great? Why do I love that? Why do I keep coming back to it over and over and over?
Yeah.
Central Park in the Dark, all those cool that descending fifth thing.
Mm-hmm.
I had to check it out at a score because it's just too dense. I can't.
Yeah. Once
it
gets too hard to just pick it up by ear, you have to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, it becomes an impenetrable forest of little nuances. The way he gets a certain sound like that was, with your second violins and third violins, it's just so much, like I say, it's just trees looking through a dense forest, and you can't see it after a while.
Yeah.
Like you can only see about 10 feet in, and then it's just black. I can't tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we go back to that story you were about to tell about Gary Peacock? He said some interesting things to you. He said,
yeah, he did. He did in the session. He was kind of a little cryptic, I mean, I was so in awe and completely nervous. The session was set up, and actually, I think Mark Copeland introduced us. Said hey, and kind of made an introduction. And then, I mean, I remember walking to the subway and thinking, that day we did it at the studio in Spring Street. It was amongst jazz musicians in New York. It was kind of a famous. It was a famous, cheaper studio you could go play in. And it also had one of the better pianos in the city.
That's true. Just a little advertisement for your record.
Ladies and gentlemen, on sale, the next 12 hours, flash sale.
Yeah.
So I walk into the sub, and I thought, my God, I'm going to the studio to play with Gary Peacock. I mean, seriously, I almost felt I was so nervous and just, hi, Mr. Peacock, I'm so happy to meet you, and I've been a huge fan of your work, and and I think I was gushing. I was talking and gushing, and Mark was standing there, and I remember I was just going on and on about how great I thought he was and everything, and Mark just looks at me. He's like, "Would you stop?" He's like, "Would you stop?" And then Gary goes, "No, it's okay. Keep going. This is nice." He was like, "I'm enjoying this." I was like, "Okay, Anyways, no, he said something interesting when we were trying to do. We did a version of Lost in the Stars, and it's very obscure. I mean, almost to the point where if you didn't put the title on it. Maybe people wouldn't know kind of what it was. It was, kind of for me anyways, a fledgling attempt at, really just exploding a tune like that out and taking it apart in a way that, where I kind of almost killed it. It's just too much. It wasn't, it wasn't as concise as I would like now anyway. Well, anyway, and we got done and he said, playing free like that, he said it's sometimes the most freeing thing is to have some rules, because he says then you can operate freely within a space. Yeah. But he said if you just like anything, because I think I said something, well, we just play whatever, and he's like, no, he's like, it's good to have some parameters, because he said then you can be totally free within the parameters. And I never really thought of it that way. And that was really the kind of the beginning of the idea of, that of, for me, of really loving the free playing that still stays concise and stays, that point. We don't get so far away where it's about everything and it's about nothing and all at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like answering a question with such a vague answer like that, What is life? Well, life is just life, man. You're not really saying anything,
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like it's everything and it's nothing. So I really liked his point about that. I never really thought of it that way, that, sometimes rules can be freeing.
Yeah.
I found that out as a parent, I can tell you. If you give kids firm boundaries, they're free to be themselves inside that boundary, If they stay within that boundary, they can actually be more free than they would if you just said, "Whoa, whatever you want. I don't care. Go do whatever you want."
Yeah, true.
Anyways, I took that away from that session.
I read that you worked with Billy Higgins. I want to ask you how that felt.
That was so great. That was the first time I ever played. That's the first drummer that I played with where I was like, wow, I was 19 and I thought, that's what's possible. That's what that's supposed to feel like. Just so much joy, first of all. The guy had a smile on his face. I mean, he was playing with, 3 local musicians from Minneapolis, back in those days, a guy would come and just pick up musicians from town, and he didn't bring his whole group,
Yeah.
So, and I did a lot of those gigs like that. That's when I played with Charlie Rouse for 4 nights, and I played with James Moody and all these guys, and they would just show up in town and they would put together a rhythm section. I mean, the club would. They'd say, you're on this one and you're not on this one, and they would try to kind of feel out who they thought would be the best kind of mix for, what was being played, that the guys playing or everything, or who was available too, who had the, and they would have these guys come into the artist quarter and play 4 nights. He'd play Thursday through Sunday. And I was 18 and 19 years old. It was great training, just being thrown to the wolves by those guys. I mean, I got my ass kicked every single night.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it was great though. And Billy Higgins was one of them. And anyways, he just, the joy, and he had that joyous thing, the way he played, the way he acted. He was such a gentleman. He was just, and they weren't all the guys I played with were not all entirely like that. Some of them were like, I'm on the road and I'm playing, with the local guys. And I mean, there was only one guy who was kind of actually dickish about it. I won't mention any names, but other than that, everyone else was pretty cool. But Billy was particularly just like you could just feel every night was just this chance to do this thing. And he didn't care that it was with local guys, and he didn't care that he just was just the joy of making music with other people. That was inspiring to me. This guy was just so filled with joy. It was great. It was great to be around. Yeah, I remember I had a cassette of a night with Buddy DeFranco that we played together. I played quite a bit with him afterwards. He actually, when I moved to New York, we played some gigs together with Buddy. He was super gentleman too. You listen to much Buddy DeFranco?
No.
Well, there's one you have to get. It's the one that he made. It's the one he made with Art Tatum.
Okay.
It's unbelievable. Oh my God. It's Buddy DeFranco and Art Tatum. They actually do this great tune on there that you'll love. Anyway, so Deep Night is one of the tunes they do on there, and it's just killing, man. Do you have the other one? The one with Lionel Hampton and Buddy Rich. Have you heard that?
No.
Oh, my God.
Great, man.
That's going to be a Desert Island disc for you. Pretty sure. Art Tatum's playing on that, and his version of They Do Makin' Whoopee, it's insane. I've never heard, even for Art Tatum, it's just insane. Harmonically, too. It's right near the end of his life. I think it was done in like 55. Didn't he die like in 56, 55 or 6?
I think
he died
so,
shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
Anyways, harmonically, he's moving, because there's no bass player on this session. It's piano and vibes and drums, and he moves it around harmonically. It's unbelievable.
Oh, great, man. I only focused on his solo recordings until now.
Yeah.
So I'll check that out. Great.
Yeah, they're really great recordings. Fingers up. But I'm not a heavy practicer, and I don't have like goals set for myself down the road. I want to be able to do this in 2 years or 5. I'm constantly kind of trying to make I mean, I guess I do have few goals. I'm trying to make my stride playing better all the time. It's something that I'm terrible at, and I love. And actually, to the extent that I've been learning a little ragtime too, just a tiny bit. I've been trying to. It's fun, man. It's a different feel. You know, it's more straight up and down. It's like the very small child of stride. You know, because where the stride swings, the ragtime really shouldn't. It's not supposed to be. You know, it's straight up and down, more like one of those. Like a calliope, you know. You know, it doesn't go boo, you know.
Yeah.
So I've been doing a little bit of that, but now I don't. I just kind of. I mean, I hope that my playing does evolve.
Sure.
I couldn't really tell you how or in what ways, but I don't think about it too much. I just listen to the things I like to listen to, which has been Bach is kind of the permanent axis on which musically my life revolves. I would say Bach, the mid-'60s Miles, so the early '60s, the mid-'60s Coltrane stuff. I don't think anybody nowadays is able to do that.
What Miles did, you know, throughout all of his life, or Wayne, you know, you're not gonna. I don't see a lot of people like that. You know, they're the giants of this music, who have that continuing search throughout their whole life, you know, without sacrificing. I don't know. It's rare. It's rare.
It's a thing very few people get to.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a couple times in a century. There's a few guys.
Yeah.
And it's just like they, and I'm not even talking about the ones that changed the music irrevocably, but just have that such a deep spiritual connection to, that's just instantly transmittable. You can tell they're playing immediately. You can just hear it's like that's Wayne. It's just there's no, that kind of stuff. It's just that doesn't happen very often. You're right. It's pretty rare.
Yeah.
But anyway, those are the guys. That's it's definitely a couple of the things that I listen to a lot. And of course, Ives. I'm a huge Ivesophile, and he's another kind of permanent. Like in the classical world, Bach and Ives. I would say there's a bunch of guys in between that I really love, but those two kind of extremes, I guess. Are kind of two things that Ives has just always spoken to me. I don't know why. Just every time I put Ives on, it's like feels like going home.
Yeah, I think everybody has some connection of that to another composer.
What's yours?
I think Mompo is mine.
Yeah,
every time I hear that, I feel like home. Also, partially because when I was a little boy, I listened to my father and my mother played that on the piano, so that actually feels like home. But also harmonically, I'm drawn to these sounds, and they're my companion.
Right. Well, that childhood stuff, like you say too, is so is so powerful and important. I mean, that certain sounds, certain smells, even they say if you want to sell your house, bake bread. Before people come to view your house, bake bread.
Okay.
Bake some bread. Because people come into a home, it smells like freshly baked bread. It just feels like home. It just feels, it is. It's like you just come in the house like, it smells like bread being baked,
Yeah. Okay. I'll keep that in mind.
Music has the same, right? If you ever want to sell your place.
What does it tell you about music then? So what would you, if you want to sell your record,
what's my bread?
Yeah.
I have no idea. That's a great question. I have no idea. I don't know. Well, that gets into, now you're starting to go down the music business
no, we won't go there.
Rabbit hole. No, that's okay. It's just I know nothing about it. I seek to know nothing. I'm terrible at it. I hate money. I mean, I need it, and I like it for that reason, but I don't, if I could barter the rest of my life, just I'll play you a gig, and then you can work on my, boiler or something. Whatever, just if I can, if we could all do that and no money ever exchange hands, that would be my
great,
number one. Yeah. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah.
Just trading, yeah, that would be sweet.